Deshaun Watson had one of the most dramatic fall-offs in NFL history, from a multi-time Pro Bowler and playoff caliber quarterback to one of the worst NFL quarterbacks in modern NFL history. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how exactly a player at the caliber of Deshaun Watson could fall off from greatness so easily, and a little bit more about his story. If you guys enjoy this video, consider liking and commenting. It helps out the channel a lot and lets me keep producing videos. Without further ado, thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope you enjoy. Deshaun Watson started as a four-star high school football recruit from Gainesville, Georgia in the class of 2014. He had an outstanding high school career at Gainesville High School where he posted 17,000 total yards and 218 total touchdowns, passing and rushing all included. According to 24/7 Sports, Watson was rated as a four-star prospect and a top 100 recruit, sitting at number 81 in the nation. There was a three-way recruiting battle for him between some of the nation's biggest schools at the time. Auburn, Alabama, and Clemson all submitted offers in for Deshaun Watson and were all heavily recruiting him. He ended up choosing Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers over Auburn and Alabama and made his way over to Clemson, South Carolina. Clemson was coming off of some of its best football in program history. They had recently found their head coach of the future in Dabo Swinney and were coming off an 11-2 season in which they had an Orange Bowl victory and finished ranked number 8 in the nation. Watson was exactly what they needed to make a push for the national championship in the upcoming newly founded 4-team college football playoff. Watson was not declared the starter his freshman year and instead was set to back up senior quarterback Cole Stout, who had looked pretty good in previous seasons but had never officially started a season yet. Stout struggled very early in the 2014 season, however, and Watson was able to get ample playing time all the way up until week 4, where he made his first official start against the North Carolina Tar Heels. Watson led Clemson to a 50-35 victory over the Tar Heels, where he threw for 465 yards and 6 touchdowns in that game. That game cemented him as the starter going forward. Unfortunately, injuries would plague Watson, and he'd only play 2 more full games in 2014, where he finished with 1,600 total yards and 19 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. His freshman year earned him the starting job from there on out, and he dominated the following years and brought Clemson to new heights. In 2015, now sophomore quarterback Deshaun Watson led the Clemson Tigers to a staggering 14-1 record while throwing for 35 touchdowns and 4,000 passing yards. He also ran for 1,000 rushing yards on the ground and 12 touchdowns. This performance got Clemson an easy bid for their first college football playoff appearance. They faced 11-1 Oklahoma in the first round, where they dominated, winning 37-17 and moving on to the national championship game. They then met prime Nick Saban in Alabama, where they would lose a shootout 45-40 in a game where Watson threw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. The loss was devastating, but they had no idea that they would get their chance for revenge the very next year. Now it's 2016 and Watson's junior season. Everybody is expecting it to be his last, and he will more than likely declare for the NFL draft if he has another great season like he did in 2015. Well, he did exactly that, having his best season yet and getting draft scouts everywhere excited. He threw for 4,500 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions, while also adding 600 rushing yards on the ground and 9 rushing touchdowns. Watson once again led Clemson to a 14-1 record and another college football playoff berth, where they would go on to once again face Nick Saban's Alabama in the national title game. They would go on to get their revenge and win in a 35-31 thriller in which Watson threw for 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. Watson's college career was over, but he finished it in the best way possible and was easily on his way to be a top pick in the 2017 NFL Draft.
In the 2017 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Deshaun Watson, quarterback, Clemson.
Watson's draft night went as about expected. In what was considered a very good quarterback class, Watson was the second quarterback off the board at pick 12 to the Houston Texans behind the GOAT, Mitchell Trubisky. Watson was declared the starter for the Texans in year 1 and went 3-3 his first year while throwing for 1,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions before getting injured in week 7 and being put on IR for the rest of the season. He then came back from injury in 2018 where he had his breakout year throwing for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, leading the Texans to an 11-5 playoff berth, all while being the most sacked quarterback in the NFL at a whopping 62 times. The Texans would go on to lose in the wild card and move on to the 2019 season, where Watson continued to make a name for himself, throwing for 26 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, leading the Texans to a 10-6 record, where they lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Chiefs in the divisional round. By this time, everybody knew Deshaun Watson was a good NFL quarterback and could even have playoff success. The problem was the team was only getting worse around him, and everyone expected him to maybe have his first down year going into 2020. But he did the exact opposite, having his best year in a season where he also had his worst record. Watson threw for 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, all while going 4-12. He had just signed a big contract extension with Houston, but after this season, Deshaun Watson's downfall began, and it began fast. Even after receiving his big contract, Deshaun Watson requested a trade from the Houston Texans in early January 2021. This is when things started to spiral for the worst. Attorney Tony Busby announces a civil lawsuit against Deshaun Watson for sexual assault against a massage therapist in March 2021. Watson immediately took to Twitter the same day, declaring his innocence and denouncing the claim made against him. However, this would not work in his defense, as he would go on to have maybe the worst month a human could possibly have. One day after, on March 17th, 2021, 2 more lawsuits were filed against Deshaun Watson for the very same or similar crimes. The following day after that, another 4 lawsuits were filed against him, bringing the total count now up to 7. This staggering number prompted the NFL to officially open an investigation on Watson for his behavior. Watson's lawyer asked the public to keep an open mind during the process, but 2 days later, 7 more lawsuits were brought up against Watson for sexual assault. The next day, 2 more lawsuits were filed after that. The next day, 3 more lawsuits were filed, and then one of the biggest bombshells, Sports Illustrated releases an article of an account from the massage therapist that once again alleged sexual assault. After this, another 2 lawsuits are filed, and one final one on March 30th, 2021, bringing it to a total of 22 lawsuits, all claiming sexual misconduct or assault from Deshaun Watson. The NFL releases a statement saying they do not have enough evidence to place Watson up on the exempt list, and he is still cleared to play football. However, the trade deadline passes and no team officially offers the Texans for Watson. He stays on the Texans roster for the 2021 to 2022 season, but refuses to play a snap. Out of the 22 lawsuits, only 9 were criminal lawsuits, and he was exempted of those 9 by a judge on March 11th, 2022. With this news, the trade sweepstakes for Watson began, with the leading teams being the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Browns. Ultimately, the Browns offered Deshaun Watson a $230 million guaranteed contract, which at the time becomes the biggest contract in NFL history. After some time, the lawsuits against Watson were all settled, as in Watson paid all women accusing him of sexual misconduct off in order to not bring any of the cases to trial. If you ask me, that's extremely suspicious. However, the Browns now have their franchise quarterback and are ready to contend for a playoff spot. Unfortunately, the Browns do what the Browns do best, and Deshaun Watson is somehow about to play his worst football anyone has seen from a quarterback in years. Today, we're in 2026, and Deshaun Watson has only made 19 starts for the Cleveland Browns. Injuries and legal troubles have kept him off the field for most of his tenure with the Browns, and when he has played, it has been horrible and nothing like his former self. Year 1 with the Browns, he threw 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Year 2, he threw 7 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. And in 2024, he threw 5 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, all while going 1-6 in his starts for Cleveland. He looks like he's seeing ghosts on every play, and the offensive line is doing him no favors as well. In 2025, he didn't even play a snap and is collecting $230 million while sitting at home, watching his team fail and lose game after game. The Browns' decision to give Deshaun Watson the largest contract in NFL history will go down as one of the worst contracts ever given to an NFL player. The fall off of Deshaun Watson is an interesting study, as there are many reasons why he could have gotten so bad. Number one, legal trouble. Dealing with constant legal battles and having to hire massive teams of lawyers and deal with backlash more than likely took a toll on him and put his focus away from football. Number two, although the Browns were a decent team when Watson signed, he went to a historically terrible franchise that has never been a quarterback-friendly place to play. And number three, he took 2 years off of football in the middle of his prime. Whatever the reason for Deshaun Watson's downfall was, it's clear to me his career is over in the NFL, and I highly doubt we see him start for any other teams going forward. Massage therapists, beware. Thank you guys for watching. It means a lot to me. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe and like the video. It would help the channel out a lot. Have a good one.